Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
One second, got a little latency here. Let me see what I got over here. Got Jolly Green. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shadowpunk. Hell. What's up, dude? Good to see you, man. And all right. Before I bring my guest on to talk about this subject, don't give me shit. Don't give me shit. Come on now. All right. Anyway. All right. So before I bring my guest on, I've got Unforgivable. Come on, man. Come on. Anyway, I got I'm gonna do a longer review later. But this show's all about what's next. And let me give a quick rating for this comic I just got. This is Aquila. Nightmare Fuel. It's his first episode. This is from Archangel Press. My good friend, the comic Aardvark. And, I did the review. I did like one of the first interviews with this guy. And it's a really interesting guy. I think he's an up-and-coming writer. This particular comic has got some art by, what is her name? Carrie Salviejo. I believe that's the name. She is actually interesting because she has never done any hard, physical media. She has always done digital. She was completely 100% digital from the beginning that she began drawing. One of the first I've ever met that is that way. But she, so there's interesting things that she does like naturally, instinctually. That I don't think that. I think she does her own coloring too. Let me make sure. No, Avery Ferdinand did the colors. So it's a very impressive team he's got there, and he's a good writer. Edited by, I believe, by letters by Dean James. Edited by Lee Byron Carter, also known as Kimosabi. And Michael Odin, two friends of mine, both of them really brilliant writers. So this is going to be a Bunny recommend. Now, I was a little disappointed. I know some of the bigger universe that he's building here. And I was kind of hoping that he would include more of that, more of the political situation, more of the challenges that he's facing as a interstellar cop, which is basically what he is. The cover is, I think it's a Dean James cover. Dean James also the letterer. But this is very impressive. It's closed out on Indiegogo. I don't know if he's got it available elsewhere. But if he does this, I'm sure he has the next book ready to go. We'll probably see campaigns for it. But so this is a recommend for me. Now, I will say that I kind of hope for a little bit more world building, a little bit more building out, maybe a little more character work. I really didn't feel like I understood this guy very well. Um, so hopefully that will come along, but it's still going to be a all right, 4 carrots out of 6. So still a very good, very high recommend for me. Now, if it's a little longer, if it's had a little bit more world building in it, if I kind of understood the character a little better, I believe it would definitely move up. But for a first outing, for the first time you see this character, I felt it was a little episodic. I was kind of for first book, you kind of want to kind of establish a little bit more of the world to me. But it had good character. I mean, it had good interactions, good plot, and it's very enjoyable read. So I give that 4 carrots out of 6. May do a longer, review later, but that's part of what's next is figuring out the new creators, and he's an up and comer, and I expect to see bigger and better things from him as we go. Now, let me see the comments over here before I bring my friend on. Let me see. Come on, bring it up. All right. See, Kokoshiko Papashango is over there, and be also known as Vince. Got Mr. Genuine Comics. Hello. Good to see you, man. And all right. Just the hellos. Okay. Now, let me bring on a friend of mine. He's been on the show multiple times now. He is working with RJ of the Fourth Age on his Karam comic book. He's the primary artist. But he has been in animation, been in marketing. He's been got quite a skill set on him. So this is a guy with a lot of perspective. Him and his buddy Crom, I like to bring them on when I can. And so this is Mr. Nick Axe. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nick.
Yo, how's it going?
Greetings. Good to see you.
Hail chat.
Hello. Okay. So today, I thought we're going to talk a little bit about nerd unity. Okay. Now, the reason I said nerd unity is because, let's face it, we're all nerds. I mean, every damn one of us nerds. Okay. So if you claim not to be a nerd, then that's pretty much guaranteed to sign that you probably are one. So now nerd is like a broad term. I mean, you could be a jock and be a nerd, or you could be, a nuclear scientist and be a nerd. In fact, if you're a nuclear scientist, you most likely are a nerd. Nerd is just like a catch-all. No, basically people who kind of live in their heads a little bit, love pop culture, embrace it, maybe even produce pop culture. So nerds, geeks, dorks. Yep, there you go. Yeah, your word of choice. Now, there's been a movement to kind of like co-op nerddom and nerd kind of like make it mainstream. And kind of corporatized it a few years ago. Now, some people would say that, maybe the canary in the coal mine might have been the Big Bang Theory. Some people point to Big Bang Theory as mainstreaming nerd culture. The MCU certainly didn't hurt anything. I think the MCU made it financially desirable for corporations. And so, people have been making money on nerds for a long time, where the toys, the movies, who else is going to get the limited edition Blu-ray steel book, but a nerd, right? Mm-hmm. Or watch the Lord of the Rings extended cuts, add an extra 3 hours onto it,
Yeah.
But here, one thing about nerds, they've always been we're kind of like supposed to be on the outskirts of society. We're not supposed to be the cool kids, you know. I don't think nerds were ever meant to be the cool kids, you know. In other words, in the middle of the table, you know, or we're all supposed to be off to the side doing D&D while the cool kids hold court, you know. Where I don't think nerd kind is ever supposed to have been in position of power. We're always supposed to have been the underdogs. And so what happens is nerds are supposedly, we're kind of like the counterculture of society. We're the ones that are always kind of like on the leading edge of what's coming and what's happening. We're usually the ones that find it first, and then the cool kids come along and say, "Oh, let me appropriate that." You know, we're the first to find the band, you know, and we're the first fans of this band, and we know every song, we know all the people by name, and then suddenly, oh, they have a #1 hit, and it's like, all the cool kids like, "Oh, I know, I love this," and you're like, You weren't there when they were playing to 60 people in the club, I was, usually we lose our place in line pretty quickly, and so they might label things as nerd, they might label things as geek, like geek chic or whatever the hell that is, but the truth of the matter is as soon as it becomes corporatized, as soon as the cool kids like it, as soon as the mainstream embraces it, it's no longer nerd. It's not true nerd. Okay. The nerds are pretty much, hey, we're going to acquire this. It's too cool for you now, so go play with your dolls or whatever, D&D was cool for a while, and then suddenly it got corporatized, Wizards of the Coast, and suddenly the CEO of Wizards of the Coast says, you guys, we need to take it away from you guys. You guys are no longer the people that should be playing this. You remember when he did that? It's like, well, we're the ones that built this thing, okay? Us in the table with the manuals with the dice, and so.
Well, you've drawn a pretty interesting picture of nerds, but you're talking about like the future, though. Like, what are you thinking in those terms? Yeah.
Right. Well, what I'm thinking of is the counterculture. The true counterculture is never going to be cool by the people who are tastemakers. It's usually discovered by the uncool kids because they're looking for their own thing. They're not comfortable with the mainstream, and so they're the first ones there. Most of the time, they're the first ones to see it. They're the first ones to embrace it. The first ones to kind of like, form communities around it. And then what happens is the cool kids come in, and then suddenly it's like the nerds are like, okay, this isn't cool anymore. Let me find something new. And so by its very nature, nerds are usually on the leading edge of counterculture. At least, hold on a second. Women's play D&D. Come on. And we can never win the battle. Okay. Well, women play D&D now. We can never win the battle. Okay. Nerd stuff was shameful. Now it's trendy. Have pride. Let's march in a parade. No, that's not what nerds do. Nerds would be, nerds would not do well in the sunlight. Okay. Anyway.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying, and there is some truth to it. But I have a few questions though.
Okay, go ahead.
This idea of nerd culture, or whatever we want to call that,
right?
To me, it's a coined phrase. That is to say that it is a phrase that is attempting to highlight a kind of behavior in
Right.
people,
Mhm.
and a lot of the behavior you've already outlined in the beginning. But the other question that I have is does it have to be this way? And more
Right.
specifically,
Mhm.
what sort of the pride parade and so on, but what sort of pride would one have, with being the profile, the picture, the portrait that you painted for us? What sort of pride should somebody have in something
Right.
like that? And I gotta ask the question again. Like, another question is okay. So you've got this painted picture of what this caricature, of a
Mhm.
nerd might be, but does it have to
Oh,
remain?
it's
I mean,
all
you talk about.
generality. Yeah.
Oh, totally, totally. But does it have to remain? Does it have to continue on this way? I
Right.
mean, you talk about. I think it's the what's next, nerd unity, the future, and so on.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
can we unify now? Uh, how fractured would that unity be? Back in the day, you
Well.
had Dungeons and
Mhm.
Dragons. You had maybe Advanced
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons, and then a couple of other games came on the market, but for the most
Mhm.
part, it was pretty easy to unify around, let's say, D&D or just role playing
Right.
in general. It
Right.
was pretty easy to do that. Now,
Mhm.
not so much. There's so
Right.
many games that you can play in so many genres and different types of gameplay that are hybrids of this and that, and hybrid card game, hybrid role playing, hybrid video game, hybrid. Like, it's just basically fractured in so many different
Yeah.
ways that this idea of unity around, let's say, something as
Mhm.
abstract as nerd starts to fall apart.
Right.
And so now
Mhm.
we're like, okay, so you're on the cusp or the cutting edge or the bleeding edge or whatever of
Right.
something that's new, whether it be in music, whether that be in like any of these particular genres or areas of interest. But even
Mhm.
those, the cutting edge or the bleeding edge of any of those things are also fragmented now. You're not going to necessarily, like, when we say mainstream,
Right.
has it gone in the mainstream? Because you've got maybe some
Yeah.
Marvel movies, but we know from the sales of comics,
Mhm.
nobody's entering that space. I mean,
Right.
if anything, people are leaving that space. Sales are down. So,
Right. Right.
nerds unify, or this idea of nerd or whatever. It's almost like as if this pattern of
Mhm.
behavior maybe could be called nerd, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
practically speaking, we're in an era that is so
Mhm.
fragmented that I wouldn't even know where the bleeding edge begins or ends anymore, because I wouldn't even be able to
Mhm.
point to it, in any meaningful way anyway.
Right. Right. Well, a couple comments over here. Nerds can't handle boobs. Well, I don't know. I think nerds really appreciate boobs. I'll say that. Anyway, that might be a little bit of a trope. Uh, hey man, what's up, Mortal Rising? Hey Aaron. This is an interesting comment, but nerds don't let go of the shit. It gets corporatized to find something new anymore. They've been moaning about the loss of the thing, make a million YouTube videos complaining like little bitches. Yep. Yep, that does happen. But are those nerds though? Are those nerds though? If nerds are supposed to be on the bleeding edge of counterculture, say, how can you, if you're constantly putting all your energy crying about the Snyderverse, losing your hobby should be synonymous with losing your identity. Everything's cyclical, especially tourists will move on after they burn it all down, and you can go back. Right. Anyway, I can handle. I can handle boobs just fine. There you go. All right. See, there you go. Then the artist always does this to me, just the wall of text. But nothing new will ever be good if you don't invest the same time, care, and building it up like you did before. Right. Okay. Right. Now the thing about it is though is every few generations there's becomes an opportunity. This has happened before multiple times, especially in capitalist countries like ours. Okay, where something that's called the mainstream, vis-a-vis, different people can have different definitions, but what qualifies as the mainstream. I'm going with the terminology that mainstream is corporatized, mass produced and mass, saturated. Okay. Now, what happens is once the corporations get involved into something, it starts losing the organic nature of it, and it starts becoming, kind of like bloated and a shell of its former self, and suddenly it becomes unpopular. A good example of this would be disco. Okay, say the disco was cool, it was underground, it was hip. All the there's like all these underground clubs where people were enjoying disco.
You think
brand new scene?
You think nerds discovered disco?
Yeah, nerds were the first purveyors of disco. There were these underground clubs. People on the edges of society. They were rebelling against things that they were seeing, and disco started out as counterculture, and then it leaked out into society. It became bloated. It became everywhere. It was on all over the radio. It was like pushed. All the top tens were pushed. And then eventually it became, meanwhile, people like that used to like disco had like, okay, it's not our scene anymore. And they moved on and started doing like punk, and started doing underground stuff like that. And then that stuff eventually, when kind of like disco reached its end phenomenon, that stuff was waiting to take over, and it became new wave. Okay. Now that's kind of a simplification, I mean, I could say here forever, but that's just an example of one thing.
Yeah, I might have a different definition of nerd then in my mind, as I'm thinking about it. Mine goes maybe more to something like Egon from Ghostbusters or something like that.
Right.
Someone who is, whenever I think of a nerd, I don't think of a geek or a dork or, any of these other names like those.
Right.
A geek doesn't necessarily have to be brilliant.
Right.
Right. Neither is a dork, especially. Right. Like a nerd, exactly. However, in my mind is somebody who's like on the spectrum of autism, usually, has a mad obsession about, some subject or topic or something like that. It has made it essentially the center of their life, both personally and professionally. They don't have any sort of balance about anything, and they put their entire brilliance and essentially sacrifice their entire self for that very obscure topic or subject.
Yeah, right.
That's how I see a nerd. I understand how Hollywood has produced the movies back in the 80s, nerds, called the nerds, whatever, and sort of painted this other picture with Poindexter and everybody else, which is somewhat valid. But I mean, yeah, like whenever I think about the idea of like being on the fringe or anything like that, in sciences or STEM or that sort of thing, I could see that. I could even maybe stretch the nerd idea out into maybe the arts, but that's a pretty big stretch. But anyway, that's how I see it. And I see what you mean by like, I think what you're really getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're really getting at is this idea of the fringe. And that that when there is a fringe, necessarily there must be a center or a mainstream or a a sort of norm or a standard, and that the people on the fringe, of which you're labeling as nerd. Okay. Yeah. So in your definition, it seems like nerd is basically all the spokes. Doesn't matter what it is. All of it on the fringe is esoteric knowledge, and they're the ones that are sort of pushing the boundaries of trying to get into that space. But here's where the issue comes with our current culture, is that the fringe has become the center. The fringe has become the standard. The whole the clown world. We don't live in normal world anymore. We live in clown world. So that means that everything is getting pushed into the center, everything, which means essentially that there is no more center. There is no more fringe. There is no more bleeding edge. It's basically all just madness. We can't really figure out anymore what the standard is. What am I going to say is the standard? Am I going to say that Marvel movies is the standard? Am I going to say that whatever is on Netflix is a standard. Like, where is the standard anymore? Whereas before, you had a Hollywood, way back in the day, where you had the movie moguls. There were only like 3 main studios, and that was the center of essentially the Hollywood mecca, this thing that was building, basically all the movies you saw. And they were producing a lot of movies at that time. And you could know that, hey, point in that direction, and that's the center of that world. And then you could point at like MIT, and you could say that's the center of that world, and so on. Now, with the internet, with all of this sort of attempt to tear down, subvert, all fringe has seemed to have poured into the center, and there's really no sense anymore of where that fringe is. I wouldn't even know where to begin looking for it, let alone at one point I would be able to tell you, hey, over there in that back alley, that dark alley over there, that's where the fringe is, or hey, over there at the edge of the earth, that's where the fringe is. But I can't tell you where it is now. So how do we define nerd now? How do we define fringe now? How do we even define standard now? Did I lose you? These are the thoughts that keep me up at night.
Right. Well, I'm speaking like, when it comes to definitions, when it comes to like specificity, we could be here all day, because it's just generic and general terms we're really talking about. Basically the premise that I'm going with here. Looks like I'm freezing up here. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Let me check something. I'll be right back.
I'll do a dance. Anyone got any questions, thoughts? How's the chat doing? All right, what do we got? We got I'm some kind of savant. Oh, wow. There you go, Kokoshuku. Bro acts bro. That's right. Hail, nerds.
All right, I'm back. Okay.
Nobody doesn't belong on
the throne. All right. Let me get caught up over here. Nothing new will ever be good if you don't invest the same. Yeah. Okay. Right. So my fault. YouTube has a character limit, right? No problem. No problem. So I'm glad you're here. Okay. So Kokoshuko with the all right. Some kind of savant. All right. More emojis. Bro X bro. All right. Got a fan. Hello nerds and pendejos. Pendejos? That's food. All right. And Cerebus is cool. So 1 second. But he doesn't belong on the throne. Okay. Gotcha. And then say, has anyone asked a question? Well, if you have a question for Axe, go ahead and we'll ask him. All right. Okay.
So you want
sorry,
nerds
my internet's just completely crazy.
It's all good. It's all good.
Go ahead.
We got you covered.
Right.
Yeah, so you want nerds to unite.
Yeah.
What do you think
well,
unity looks like?
Well, I think unity let's just pick our particular corner of the universe. And I think where we're at is the comic area, the comic arena. Okay. We'll like kind of hone in on that. And right now, we're in the counterculture of comicdom. Okay. Which is kind of like the crowdfunding area. People like independent websites and things like that. And right now we're trying to create a counterculture or a parallel economy. And we're trying to like set up a a new paradigm because the old one is going away and going away very quickly, killed by the bloat and the corruption of the mainstream. I.e. politics, gender politics. Not going to go into all that. We all know the score at
Most
this
of us
point.
have been paying attention,
But yeah, yeah, exactly. What's 30 videos by the F&T guys? On this very topic. I would suggest watching Clownfish TV. They're ahead of the game on everything. They're about a year and a half ahead of everybody else. So Clownfish TV and Film Threat are the two that I would highly recommend you watch. Everybody else is borrowing off of their stuff. So I'll just say that much. But to replace what's happening is as Comicdom dies, at least the old style, which is basically comic book shops being fed directly by the mainstream through a distribution network. It used to be Diamond, now it's multiple outlets. Also, bookstores. Well, the thing about it is we see from the sales that it's not going to be sustainable for that model. Bookstores are going the way of the dodo, and so are comic book shops, unfortunately. So, so we are basically trying to build the lifeboat right now. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, there's a lot of assumptions and a lot of sort of presuppositions that go with a lot of what you said, because I've heard a lot of these talking points as well. I would definitely agree with the assessment that the mainstream is not doing well. We can obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about the hows and whys and all that of that. But when it comes to the parallel economy, I'm not exactly, whenever I try to nail anybody down on that, they give me the usual sort of like talking points on it, and it's not necessarily like quite there. So I don't know what that looks like, and I wouldn't be able to comment on it in any meaningful way. But if we were talking about a parallel marketplace, you see, that I could understand, because the parallel economy is a completely different animal with completely different rules and is in
what I meant was
no.
marketplace. What I meant was marketplace.
For sure. Yeah. So marketplace is something that, because I mean the parallel economy is very much the anarcho-capitalist sort of position, like Eric July and so on. And I'm not sure about it. I'm not poo-pooing it either. I don't really understand it completely.
Okay, parallel marketplace is better terminology. Okay,
for sure. Yeah.
I'll adjust to that. I'll adjust to that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm a little bit autistic when it comes to words and terminology and stuff. So
no worries. Go ahead.
But yeah. So a parallel marketplace, that is to say, one of the comments that in here, by Genuine Comics is to be able to replace the mainstream, indie has to become the mainstream. That's exactly right. There's no such thing as replacing the mainstream without becoming the mainstream. I mean, that just, and can we do that? Well, the other comment is, that, what is it? The new paradigm, I don't think will happen because there's too much infighting, backstabbing with so many creators I see online. There's a ton that are that get along good, and then there's a bunch of rotten apples. You see, the sentiment I agree with. The truth of it, I think we all know in our heart that it doesn't have to be that way. But the cynical part of us sees it for what, sees the practical world for what it is. It sees the reality. So as much as we can talk abstractly and we can understand unity in the abstract sense, when it gets into the practical world, with all the personalities and the egos and everything else, it does become far more a difficult animal. And this goes to the marketplace idea. You see,
Mm-hmm.
we're all human. We all have our various proclivities and our various vices and so on. And a marketplace is something that usually keeps a lot of that stuff in check, in theory.
Right.
It can keep it in check because you have various interests that you're going to
Mhm.
want to keep. If you're
Right.
invested heavily in a marketplace, that is to say, you've opened shop, you've got your little store, people are coming in and out, buying stuff, you're actually making a living, you're feeding your kids off that. Well, suddenly you find yourself in a very, tight pickle when someone says, hey, I want to just upend the marketplace and start anew and whatever else. And you're like, wait a second, I've just invested 10 years of my life. So what's my point? My point is that behavior can be very much guided by the market and how the market, behaves, what the regulations of the market are,
Mhm.
and so on. But at the same time, and I'm not for market regulation. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just talking about this in abstract terms. I'm not talking about this in any sort of political sense that
Right.
I'm trying to put forward or anything like that. But on the other hand, there's a whole other, part to this where
Mhm.
the question is, abstractly speaking, what is the thing that people hold most high? And this means that it necessarily goes back to that idea of the fringe and the standard or the center of the wheel as it spins. What is at the top? What is the thing we most value, and what is it? The center. We know what regulation looks like from government, and obviously from ESGs that are now like putting their various mandates and so on these corporations in order for them to get favorable terms on loans and other sort of access to funding and money and so on. That is an example of top-down pushing a kind of market, like forcing a kind of marketplace that shouldn't exist, right? But it is definitely changing behavior, and obviously it's changing behavior because we can see the schlock that's being produced by the mainstream. It's not even mainstream anymore; it's completely co-opted. But so
Right.
my point. Did I lose my point here, or did I? I think what was I trying to say? Someone help me out. Please, someone throw me a life raft. Yeah,
I'm
I
completely in
think
the woods here, man. The weeds here, man. I don't.
what I'm saying is that I remember what I'm saying. So we've got the marketplace forces and the regulations that can manipulate behavior. But then on the other side, there's this other thing, which is the idea of the principle.
Yeah.
Now, unity cannot be external. You see, we live in a free will realm. We all have it. We all have free will. We all have choices. Some of us are smarter than others. Some of us aren't necessarily paying attention. Some of us are basically victims of our vices and so on. All that's true.
Mhm.
But still at the heart of it, we live in a free will realm, which means that if there is going to be any sort of unity, that means that egos have to be put into check. And the question becomes, what do you serve? What do you subrogate your ego to? Do you subrogate your ego to the principle of, let's say, forget politics, forget it all. You have one thing at the top of this, pyramid, as it were, at the center of this, circle, as it were. What do you place there? And I would say that if you wanted to have some sort of unified, principle that could make someone or some group or whatever the mainstream, if that's how you want to think about these things, that would have to be quality entertainment. That would have to be
I got a
dedication to craft. Go ahead.
I've got a 5-minute clip of a speech that Matthew McConaughey made. That kind of like talks about some of this. So I'm going to play it right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We'll talk on the other side of it. Here we go.
I'm going to talk to you about some things I've learned in my journey. Most from experience, some of them I heard in passing, many of them I'm still practicing, but all of them I do believe are true. Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Do not fall into the trap, the entitlement trap, of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Get over it. Get on with it. So the question that we've got to ask ourselves is what success is to us, what success is to you. Is it more money? That's fine. I got nothing against money. Maybe it's a healthy family. Maybe it's a happy marriage. Maybe it's to help others, to be famous, to be spiritually sound, to leave the world a little bit better place than you found it. Continue to ask yourself that question. Now, your answer may change over time, and that's fine. But do yourself this favor. Whatever your answer is, don't choose anything that will jeopardize your soul. Prioritize who you are, who you want to be, and don't spend time with anything that antagonizes your character. Be brave, take the hill, but first answer that question, what's my hill? So first, we have to define success for ourselves. And then we have to put in the work to maintain it. Take that daily tally. Tend our garden. Keep the things that are important to us in good shape. Where you are not is as important as where you are. It is just as important where we are not as it is where we are. Look, the first step that leads to our identity in life is usually not, I know who I am. I know who I am. That's not the first step. The first step's usually, I know who I am not. Process of elimination. Defining ourselves by what we are not is the first step that leads us to really knowing who we are. You know that group of friends that you hang out with that they really might not bring out the best in you? You know, they gossip too much or they're kind of shady. They really aren't going to be there for you in a pinch. Or how about that bar that we keep going to that we always seem to have the worst hangover from? Or that computer screen, right? That computer screen that keeps giving us an excuse not to get out of the house and engage with the world and get some real human interaction. Or how about that food that we keep eating? Stuff that tastes so good going down, it makes us feel like crap the next week. We feel lethargic and we keep putting on weight. Well, those people, those places, those things, stop giving them your time and energy. Just don't go there. I mean, put them down. And when you do this, when you do put them down, when you quit going there, when you quit giving them your time, you inadvertently find yourself spending more time and in more places that are healthy for you, that bring you more joy. Why? Because you just eliminated the who's, the where's, the what's, and the when's that were keeping you from your identity. Like, trust me, too many options, I promise you this, too many options will make a tyrant of us all. All right, so get rid of the excess, the wasted time. Decrease your options. If you do this, you will have accidentally, almost innocently, put in front of you what is important to you by process of elimination. Knowing who we are is hard. It's hard. Give yourself a break. Eliminate who you are not first, and you're going to find yourself where you need to be. Instead of creating outcomes that take from us, let's create more outcomes that pay us back, fill us up, keep your fire lit, turn you on for the most amount of time in your future. We try our best. We don't always do our best. Well, architecture is a verb as well. And since we are the architects of our own lives, let's study the habits, the practices, the routines that we have that lead to and feed our success, our joy, our honest pain, our laughter, our earned tears. Let's dissect that and give thanks for those things. And when we do that, guess what happens? We get better at them. And we have more to dissect. Be discerning. Choose it because you want it. Do it because you want to. We're going to make mistakes. You got to own them. Then you got to make amends. And then you got to move on. Guilt and regret kills many a man before their time. So turn the page, get off the ride. You are the author of the book of your life.
Okay. Now, he's talking about basically prioritizing. Right now we got a lot of noise. We got a lot of voices. We got a lot of people pulling everybody in different directions. But I like the part where he said that it's more important to know, not only to know who you are, but who you are not, and part of your identity that gets formed. That is basically that we have that identity, that we know basically what we stand for. Because if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And I think right now, I see a lot of negativity. I see a lot of forces that are trying to pull us off track, trying to get us, on different goals that aren't conducive to building the future, building a future of, the structure that necessary for us to move forward. And I see a lot of people that, because of their own, desires for their own supremacy or their own, market share, to maintain their own market share, that are trying to pull us all apart and polarize us into different areas. And the truth of the matter is we all have individual goals. We all have individual dreams. We all have individual ideas about where we want to be. And we can't do it. We can't do it alone. Especially a smaller one is one of us that maybe not have the resources, but we can do it together. If we can, hold together long enough to reach that goal. And so, any thoughts?
Well, here's okay.
So many thoughts. So many thoughts.
Well, I think the first one would probably be that I don't know if I agree with our man McConaughey there.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure I do. Because one of the things that it's Gnostic. What he's saying there is Gnostic. Gnostic is in Gnostic wisdom, GNOST.
Okay.
I see Gnostic. And I don't buy into that worldview.
Okay.
It's a lost cause to try to figure out what you're not, because there's so many other things that you're not than what you are. How many things can you not be? Right. This is a very common Gnostic practice. This is the idea of how they define, how a Gnostic would define God, is everything that God is not.
Okay.
The other issue with it is that it puts success at the heart of everything as well. And a lot of what it talks about in there is this idea of achieving that success, achieving your identity and everything else. Well, anytime you're achieving this identity or such, again, I have a different worldview. I don't share that worldview. I have a sense of my identity. And because I don't seek out this identity, when I see other people seeking out their identity or trying to find self or any of these other sort of masturbatory sort of journeys and so on, what I see instead is idolatry. That is to say, the worship of an idol. And I would say that the extreme version of what I'm talking about would be a transgender individual which is a nonsensical term.
Yeah.
Made up idea completely.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the height of self-delusion and self-idol worship.
Uh-huh.
You see, the Gnostic wants to get you to pursue your identity,
Right.
to discover your identity, that your identity is the most important thing ever. Well, all that is just self-worship. It's a
Okay.
Gnostic trick. And so McConaughey, I see him quite a bit as a Gnostic, even though he may have Christian roots. I think somewhere along his Hollywood journey, he sort of fell into some Gnostic thinking, Gnostic quote wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And, so his idea there is again, from my worldview and from where I'm sitting, what I see is if you were to follow the prescription that McConaughey has offered, you would get more of what Comicsgate suffers from, which is division,
Right.
egos, fighting, and everything else. It's not about identity
Okay.
or venerating or elevating identity. It's about subrogating. It's about what is it that you serve. That's the only way. There is no other way to get unity. If you have a principle, okay, and that's why, you have the Constitution of the United States. It's a set of principles.
Right.
Everyone must subrogate, must submit to, right, must serve those principles. If you do not have a country. You do not have law. You do not have order of any kind.
Right.
So it can't be your identity that's at the core of it. It's your identity. Okay. Your identity is actually well, there's a few ways to look at it, but one of the ways to look at it is what it is that you do, or how or what it is you put before you. Mm-hmm. And then what you put before you, again, the principle is how you identify. So let's say you join some sort of book club. Okay. And within that book club, the principle at the heart of it is to, develop your vocabulary and improve your reading skills. Something very simple, a very simple principle. Like, we don't have to make this artsy fartsy or crazy or anything like that. Well, what happens is that you submit, you serve, you sacrifice time to read the books on the list, time to meet with people. This is all sacrifice. This is all you taking your identity, which might be a sloth, which might be a lazy butt, which might be an ignoramus, which might be it might be a bunch of different things, right? And what you're doing is you're saying, well, I'm going to subrogate. I'm going to serve this idea. Not, I shouldn't say ideal, but this principle. And then I can then identify as a member of this book club because I follow that principle. I follow the principle of the Constitution. I follow the 10 Commandments and so on. So, well, this is for me. This is a magic trick. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, something along that lines. I have another clip I can play. That seems to be more along the lines of what you're talking about.
Sure.
If you allow me. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. No, I like discussions. So it's all good.
Anybody know what this place is?
Okay.
This is Gettysburg. This is where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg.
It's all good.
50,000 men died right here on this field, fighting the same fight that we're still fighting amongst ourselves today. This green field right here, painted red, bubbling with the blood of young boys, smoke and hot lead pouring right through their bodies. Listen to their souls, man. I killed my brother with malice in my heart. Hatred destroyed my family. You listen. You take a lesson from the dead. If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground,
we too will be destroyed. Just like they were. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll learn to play this game like men.
What'd you get out of that one? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
There we go. All right, back. All right. So is that more in line with what you're thinking here?
Honestly, it would have to be a discussion. I mean, a lot of it is, you know, I guess like sort of platitudes and so on. There is something at the core.
Right.
There is something at the core of what he's saying. If you,
that's what I'm talking about. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you, so when he talks about sacrifice, or like they're getting closer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But really, this comes back to what it is, like asking the questions about, like, well, what would we unify around?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of us have the maturity, the perspicacity, the wherewithal, the will to submit to principles. Our society, unfortunately, celebrates, venerates, and promotes the idea of individuality, of one finding their, well, that this, again, this idol worship, this self idol worship, that's what you should be doing, that it's all about your dreams, and all that. And I take a different view, right?
Okay.
My view is one of, like, I do have dreams, I do have hopes and all these things, but I always check them to make sure as best as I can. And I try to surround myself with friends who help me do this very thing, which is to keep them within truth.
Right.
That in my mind, there's only two decisions, and there will only ever be two decisions, which is to either turn towards truth and serve it, or turn away from truth. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I have a dream, then the only question at that point that I have for myself is, how do I make that dream align with and serve truth? So if I'm going to do, let's say, a comic book, it can be something as modest as a comic book.
Right.
Not a big thing at all. Well, what could I do? Well, I would write stories that are true, that resonate with truth. The truth of the human condition, the truth of the divine spirit, the truth of the will, the idea that we all have free will, that all these different things.
Yeah.
These things would be what I could take my dream and align that dream to, and the chances of that dream becoming a reality multiply by 8,000 times. Whereas if you live in a delusion and you just serve yourself and you serve your whims, and so-and-so has so many backers, and so-and-so has made so much money and everything else. Why am I not making that money, that much, or whatever? These are sort of the delusional attitudes. If you go around starting to crap on everybody because, hey, you should be supporting my comic and you haven't done it, and why haven't you? And, oh, I bought your comic, why haven't you bought mine? Like, all these different, like, attitudes that we're seeing, this entitlement and everything else, those are all the delusion. That's all turning away from truth. So what I do is I try to figure out what principles that I want to serve. And in this case, I don't think that we're going to have a bunch of people who share the same worldviews, like whether you've got Christians, whether you've got the woke, I don't think that's going to happen. The only thing that can happen, in my estimation, is that you can take something like a craft. In this case, our craft happens to be comic books. And you can do what the Inklings did. The Inklings is that literary group by J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and a bunch of others that came together, and they would meet, I believe, weekly at the Eagle and Child, which was a pub, right? And what they would do is they would show each other and read each other the work that they had done from the previous meeting. And they would give each other honest critique, honest feedback. Well, it's not about the feedback, is it? It's not about the honest critique. It's about submitting yourself. It's about submitting yourself to what is true, what is good, and what is beautiful. It's about submitting yourself to the craft.
Right.
It's about submitting yourself to proper grammar, proper logic, and proper rhetoric when you're putting together your fantasy story, your fairy story, or whatever it is. You see, I can't convince you to be a good atheist, a good Christian, a good Muslim, I can't convince you of doing anything like that. But if you if you say that your calling is something like comics, and you'd love to see, let's say, the Fringe move into the mainstream, and you wanted to unite people around something, anything at all, it wouldn't be any of those other things, those religious or political things. In this case, and in this art form, it would have to be about the true, the good, the beautiful. It would have to be about the craft. It would have to be about every single person that would join a group like that would submit their work in order to get better. Why? Because that's the only way you're going to kick the mainstream's ass, is that your books cannot be ignored. They are that good. They can't be ignored. Everybody wants them. Everybody must have them in their hands. But that's not going to come with egos. That's definitely not going to come with egos that can't take criticism. That's not going to happen with egos that constantly need to fight with one another, that need to trash talk, that need to throw each other under the bus, that need to be ahead, that need to call out one another or anything like that. The only thing that can happen, the only way that this can happen, is unity through some kind of principle. Now, I put forward the idea of the principle of the true, the good, the beautiful, as it pertains to craft, and our craft happens to be comics. But if somebody else has a better idea, I'd love to hear it, because I would like to see that kind of unity. I would love to see that kind of fellowship, as it were, to coin Tolkien, now that we've been talking about the Inklings. Right? Look up the Inklings. It was a very interesting group of literary professors and writers and so on that would come together, and they would.
And they changed the world. That little group changed the world, completely. Totally.
And the way they did it was by workshopping their craft with each other.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron, right? If this is about division within indie comic scene, how it's all in the back, I think people should look inward. The scene is what you give attention to. What gets attention grows. Division is in human nature. You can't control what other people do. You can choose to tune out the noise. People focus too much on nonsense and complain everything is nonsense, right? The lead is to serve. You have to much given requires willingness to give much. These are values that make a hero worth watching. Okay. Instant gratification is a problem today, and hedonism. Yeah, definitely. Truth helps make dreams real. Truth reveals how much make all dreams reality.
Absolutely.
Got some philosophers out here. The hard question in comics right now is, why aren't you pushing my book? The best question is, how can this book be better? How do I make my story spark imagination, start a fire among readers?
Love it.
Right? To tell the best story.
And
this one is why won't it show up? Come on now. Come on, show up. All right. Unity is worthless if not united behind truth, the beautiful, and inspirational. Right. So you got agreement there.
Well, and so why would I?
The only way forward.
I would say, like, why would I have agreement? I don't think that I actually have agreement. What I think's happened is the words that I've said speak as closely as I can to the truth, and it's the truth that resonated with our listeners, our viewers. So it isn't
Right.
that they're in agreement with me. It's that they resonate with the truth, and we can all resonate with the truth because we all have that detector. We all know where the truth is and when we're lying to ourselves, right? So I think that's more of what's at
Right.
play than anything else.
Right.
I don't think anyone's agreeing with me. I think it's that they know what the truth is and that they resonate with that. It resonates. They can't help it. And I think that's where the heart
Yeah.
of the most powerful stories come from. And I think we know that too.
Yeah. Well, so if we're going to like go forward, I do think, yes, we do have to go unify, but like you said, that we need to unify around the right things. And
Principles, yeah.
truth is not a bad thing to unify around. You know, the truth is, yeah. But you know, we just, I guess we have to decide who we want to be. You know, do we want to make product like the mainstream's doing right now, just making product? Or do we want to make something special, make something unique, put something into the world that might change the world for somebody, you know, to have resonance, to have permanence, to have some kind of impact.
I think I agree. I think I agree with you. Not necessarily in terms of putting anything unique or special into the world, because I don't know exactly what that means. I know what the dictionary definition is, but I'm not necessarily sure I can follow it. Again, I'm a little bit of a stickler. But when you said something that's resonant, I understand that fully, you know, and in terms of one's, you know, identity and so on. I mean, you know, I think that we're sort of, I guess I could say, you know, I guess you could say a Christian perspective where the truth is something which you align with or you don't align with, you know.
Right.
Some of us practice, some of us don't. I don't, and atheists, the truth isn't, you know, like the truth isn't like wholly like a Christian thing, although I think a lot of the Christian symbolism and so on kind of gets close. But this isn't about Christianity. This isn't about atheism. This isn't about any of that stuff. This is about being human and knowing that there is something resonant, that there is something out there that we know is true, that is good, and that is beautiful. And I think that's really what people resonate with, and I agree with you that if you can write a story that can create that resonance, you know, it's in the resonance that you have a lasting impact. Anything that doesn't resonate, well, entropy. That's what entropy is, right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't amplify. It doesn't. It just dies over time.
If you're not growing, you're dying. Yeah. So you have to put energy into a system to maintain it. And if you're not maintaining the energy, then eventually it'll stop. So like a Ferris wheel, right? Not Ferris wheel, but merry-go-round, you know, eventually it'll stop if you don't keep pushing it. And so why over here says disunity I see right now comes from people not being honest, promoting books that people didn't honestly endorse, and when they're static they burn the same books they didn't like but pushed. Yep. I have definitely talked about
it's hard to trust that.
We should be unified deciding it is well, you pushed it before, why isn't it good now, you know? So, you know, that's would be beyond a relationship. You know, if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. You know, why is it good now, or was it not good now when it was good then? You know, so how can I trust that, right?
Agreed.
We should be unified in deciding to completely tune out those who don't want to be unified. They will either have to change or tune a bit left behind. Exactly. Yes. There you go. That's a good.
And it's their free will.
Uh,
It's their free will. They can
Yep.
choose not to, or they can choose to. That's why I say it's a free will realm.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much why I played at McConaughey. You know, outside of the Gnosticism, he did make a good point about, you know, if it's not benefiting you, then you need to evaluate if it should be in your life or not. You know, if it's keeping, you know, if it's holding you back and keeping you down, no matter how painful, the decision has to be made. You know, if you want to keep moving forward, you have to, you know, like me, I'm losing the weight right now because I'm on a diet, and the only way I started losing weight is by stop eating the wrong stuff and start eating the right stuff. You know, cut my calories and exercise more. It's not brain surgery, but but wishing it didn't make me lose weight. You know, I had to make changes. I had to cut things out, like some really, really, really great things that I really, really miss. Anyway, pizza is no longer on the menu. So, you know, things like that. But I'm out. You know, suddenly all my health is in the red, in the black. You know, I'm, you know, doing. I went from
That's
diabetic
great.
to. But
wow,
it's like I
great.
said in my video when I was talking about when I got my positive, you know, report from my doctor. The only way to change your life is to change it. The only way to, you know, being static doesn't change a thing, you know, and we just need to evaluate, you know, as we move forward as a group. We need to evaluate what things we might need to leave behind because they're not beneficial.
Well, and I'll speak to what
people.
I'll speak to what genuine, I'll speak to what Genuine Comics also says here. It says you know, we should be unified in deciding to completely tune out those who don't want to be unified. And I'm going to qualify that. It has nothing to do with the group.
Mm-hmm. No,
this isn't about like, oh, you're not part of the group. You're, you know, we are the one that's going to gatekeep you or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to do with that at all.
Put the
fact that you choose not to align yourself with what's true.
Right.
You have self-selected yourself out of. You're the one that has made the decision to not be. There's no gatekeeper. It's you who have gatekept yourself because you've decided not to resonate with the truth. That's it.
Right.
So we don't have to gatekeep. We don't have to do anything. It's just like either you do or you don't.
Yeah. There you go. Put your link in the private chat or for me so I can go ahead and post it.
Oh,
you
sure.
know, you've got some fans that want to keep in charge, keep in touch with you there. Well, basically though, I think what we're coming down to, and I think we kind of arrived at a premise, and the premise is basically that. All right, hold on, let me get that copied right quick, and we'll put that in the chat. This is where you can find Mr. Nick. He is available for marketing consultation. I believe you said you were.
Crom is.
But Crom is okay. Yeah. But you're available to be on shows and give your give.
Yeah, I love helping
talks
people,
like you did
so
today.
I'll definitely help people for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so well, come on. Having a little bit of an issue here. Sorry. Let me go ahead and StreamYards sucks. StreamYards really, really sucks. Comments. It's the clunkiest piece of website ever.
I'll just dance. Any questions, thoughts? What are you guys thinking? What's on your mind? Is anyone like thinking that they'd be interested in something like that? Some sort of I don't know, like Discord group or something where we chat about, you know, uh, the true, the good, the beautiful, about our craft, about getting better at writing comics, get better at drawing comics, get better at marketing, get it all in front, getting in front of people, these sort of things. I mean, these are the things that my buddy Crom and we think about these things a lot. I mean, we have conversations all the time. In fact, if you look at Razor Sharp Balloons on YouTube, you'll find a conversation we had earlier today. Cooper, did you see that? Did you watch that live stream with Crom and I on Crom's channel?
I pushed it, but I've yet to watch it.
Oh, okay. It's all good.
Yes.
It just happened.
Yes,
There's one that happened today. Did you see the one?
StreamYards kicked me off my own show. StreamYards kicked me off my own show. Dadgummit.
No unity. No unity.
Anyway. No unity at all. All right. Except we all hate StreamYards. There you go. That's unity. All right. So you a boss player? Okay. That's saying that he likes you very much. Wyatt agrees. Crom thinks you're smelly. Okay, there you go.
I won't tell you what I think of him. Damn it. Son of a bee.
There you go. All right. This is where you can find Nick Axe. Also Crom. Crom is he's Crom. What is his Twitter? Go ahead, Crom. Go ahead, put your at Crom RSB on Twitter. He also has a something about sharp balloons or something like that. What is his channel? Yeah, there it goes.
It is. Put it in there.
He's got a. I made him a mod so he can put his own links. I don't have to do that. You can put your own links. There you go. You're a mod. All right. Anyway. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on the show today, Nick. I think we got a lot of good ground covered. Hopefully a lot of consensus was reached. Well,
and maybe on some things, but it's good to have sparks. It's good to have conversations and these sort of like, throw something out, throw something back, say yay, nay, whatever, like kind of feel it out, chop at it a little bit, see what's revealed.
Right.
And it's entertaining for people who are watching as well. If there's a little bit of like, energy that's kind of going back and forth and so on. So yeah, I'm totally open to these sort of things.
You disagreed with me. You're never coming on my show again. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. I expect
you're
not to.
Coming on my show again.
I guess I should start giving. I guess I should start handing out like good reviews on everybody's comic now. Hey, like I'll just be like that guy to make friends.
There you go. Be that guy.
There you go. Yeah, win.
Right. That's how you win. That's how you win, right?
Thanks, Kokoshuko. That's
okay.
awesome.
A couple more comments and we'll go. Once again, thank you for coming on, Nick.
Yeah.
Well, before I get kicked off my own show again. All right. Razor Sharp Balloons. Check that channel out. He's got one video up right now. Very good one. Which I have yet to watch. I promise I'll watch it. But I know it's good. I know it's good stuff because it's Crom. So I'm glad I caught this and grateful. All right. Hey, thank you. I'm glad you came on. Okay. Well, so that has been Cooper for Telepathic Bunny Comics. I'm here with my buddy Nick Axe. And remember, follow the White Rabbit, and we will see you next rabbit hole. Bye, everybody.
Later.